We want to put the spotlight on the relative prize money given to the women's teams compared to the men's teams in the FA Cup. This year, the total FA Cup prize fund for the men's teams is £30.25 million. The total FA Cup prize fund for women's teams is £250,000. So the total prize money for women is less than 1% of the total prize money for men. To distribute more money to the grassroots, the FA introduced payments to the losing teams in the 2 rounds of the FA Men's Cup, as well as now to the winners. So, this season, in the FA Cup preliminary round, the losers of the men's matches received nearly 3 times as much money as the winners of the women's matches at the same stage of the competition. In fact, the total prize money of £291,000 paid to the losing men's teams in just the first 2 prelim rounds of the FA Cup is more than the total prize money paid to all of the winning teams in the Women's FA Cup in the entire competition. The winners of the Men's FA Cup received £3.6 million for winning in that final. That's on top of more than £3 million in prize money for winning the previous rounds. The winners of the Women's FA Cup received £25,000. We could go on and on. These differences are vast. Obviously, nobody at the FA has consciously engineered these relative outcomes. They are the aggregate result of many people making many decisions with various desired outcomes over time. But look at where we've inadvertently ended up. To drive the step change in women's football that we all want, one of the main things that the women's game needs is much more money. The extra cost to an existing women's club of stepping up to the FA Women's Championship, for example, is a minimum of £100,000 a year, net of the FA grants received. That's a tiny sum for most men's professional clubs, but completely unattainable for most women's clubs. Not because of some static and universal law that women's football attracts less attention and less revenue than men's, but as a result of decade upon decade of negligible resources being made available to the women's game. We know that you want to change that, to transform the women's game, and we know that you consider the FA Cup to be a good way to redistribute wealth to the grassroots in the men's game. That same FA Cup provides an ideal mechanism for financially irrigating the women's game. So we are suggesting a radical increase in the Women's FA Cup prize fund. Let's get these prize funds to a level that we would all be able to tell our children about without embarrassment. Try explaining the disparities in prize money to a child and you'll see what we mean. That would, at a stroke, increase the level of focus and seriousness paid to the women's game by existing football clubs by an order of magnitude. It would create dozens of clubs who are newly able sustainably to compete at the top level of football. In turn, that would create the potential to expand the current 11-team top leagues to a number more in line with the men's game. This creates many more matches and therefore opportunities for fans, sponsors and TV companies. It would give a huge boost to the England team by greatly increasing the pool of players training and competing at a high level. If we are all really serious about rapidly driving huge positive change in the women's game, then the FA Cup prize fund provides a powerful mechanism to do so. Let's use it. What a story it would be for the world's most beloved domestic cup competition to become the holy grail that champions women's football into a whole new era. Good luck and best wishes to all our competitors in today's Women's FA Cup 4th round, particularly our Sussex friends, Crawley Wasps.